Welcome to the Festival of Storytellers.
I can't tell you how excited I am to be on right now. It's been a couple of weeks of excitement getting prepared, and I've done a lot of things in my life, but this has got to be close to the top.
Thank you, Reader's Magnet, and thank you, John, for putting this forth and taking the chance on our authors in presenting this out to the world.
I've enjoyed this immensely, Joanne.
Ellie, so have I. Thank you for who you are, and thank you, Reader's Magnet. You all are beautiful, and you've worked so very hard, and we are blessed.
We are.
I thank everybody that's involved with this process, because we know writers need readers and writers need publishers. We thank Reader's Magnet and everybody that's involved. I love Reader's Magnet. They say, we share your stories with the world.
I'm TERRIE STADLER, and I wrote a book called Who's Knocking at My Door? And this is based on a real incident that occurred back in 2012. My daughter and I were sitting in the house while working at the computers, and we heard this loud knocking, this loud sound at the front door. And so she decided to go and see what was happening. And she went to the living room and was checking at the door, and she started laughing, and she told me I needed to come in there and see what was going on. So I did that. I went to the living room and I looked down, and here was this big soft-shell turtle using his feet, one of his feet, to knock on the door. And really, I never had such an experience like that. So that's what inspired me to write the book. I wanted to bring this to children and introduce the fact that you have these animals that are willing to, communicate with you. We don't know exactly what they want, but we can imagine it. And that's what I did. I based the book on what I could imagine, because out front we did have a pond that did have other wildlife living in it. And the soft-shell turtle was one of those creatures that lived in there. So I just started to imagine what would happen. Why would he come to my door? We're in South Florida, and it does get pretty hot and dry at times. So we were thinking maybe they wanted food. Sometimes we would take and break up bread or what have you, and we had even gone to a feed store and picked up some food for animals, and had provided it for the pond. And we thought maybe he, was looking for us to continue to do that, because we didn't stay on top of it very well. So with that, I started to write, what might be going on in the pond with all these creatures, and what they might be saying to each other. And it was really, I used my imagination, but I wanted to provide drawings of the other animals that were they frequented the pond, and they were there, from birds to different fish to all kinds of wildlife like that. So that way I felt I could introduce these other animals to the children and actually provide real look-alike pictures so that they weren't just phony. They were the pictures of just as they would appear. We called one bird a storky bird. He was a heron. And let me think, there were fish in there as well, like tilapia. There were blue tilapia in the pond. And we drew pictures of that. As a matter of fact, there were quite a few drawings, and my daughter provided all those drawings that you see in the book. And I just felt like it needed to have, other information other than about the turtle itself. And the turtles are pretty plentiful they were pretty plentiful in that pond. And that particular breed, the soft shell, that's what we all called it. And what would happen is they're very fast on their feet. They are not as slow like you see in cartoons and so forth, where they're just moping along. No, they don't do that. They really trot along pretty fast, maybe even faster than me. So he did turn around and make it back to that pond pretty quickly. So again, I just thought, well, I had been inspired to write children's book, the years before that, but I was working, trying to pay bills and do all that kind of thing that you do when you're younger. And I took a correspondence course for the writing, but it kind of went by the wayside. I did complete the course, and but I just never applied myself to that. So the opportunity came much later, after I had retired. I had worked for over 30 years for an electronics firm. So then I decided, by then I had moved from West Palm Beach over to Fort Myers. And with that, I was staying with my daughter at the time until I was ready to buy my own place, which I did. And that's how I got started on this. And then really nothing I did on my job would have prepared me for this other than drawings. And I didn't really do these drawings. So working for an electronics firm, you just put in a lot of hours and work, and you're on the computer all the time. So this was an opportunity, and I did self-publish the book at that time. Moving on, I don't really have any more stories like that one. As I said, it was based on a true incident. So, and I have met at least one other person who had that very same thing happen to them, where a turtle had come and knocked on their door. And I think she said that there had been some kind of flooding, so the turtle was obviously looking for some kind of remedy to the situation of the water and all, but I don't know what kind of turtle that was. The soft shell is certainly a water turtle, and they like to stay under the water and in the water. So that's the last part of the book. That's the finale, is when you get the story about what was knocking on the door. But again, I'm just trying to imagine what he was thinking and what his comrades were thinking. And I had thought maybe they sent him up to the door because none of them showed up. It was all about the turtle. So, and I'm hoping that this is a way for us as people to communicate with other animals out there that actually they want to communicate with us, although not all of them do. But it gives us a chance to relate to them and maybe even have some kind of sensations about what that turtle is all about. and how we can communicate with animals and keep them, interested, but they're very to the point. They don't want to just hang around and socialize. No, they just want to get back to their routine eating and swimming and whatever they do. So here in Florida, I'm sure there's opportunity for many kinds of animals to approach humans, and not always what we want them to do. I've heard there's black bear here, which they've shown pictures of, and of course the alligator, which you don't want to encounter, and just your everyday birds, many different kinds of birds, the herons and the spoonbills and many other kinds. And then, of course, in Florida, we have the Everglades, which certainly has quite a number of animals there. And I only visited there once in the Everglades, but there's really a lot of mosquitoes down there. This is where you can get that picture in your mind of the guy who has a net over his head, because that's what you need when you're in an environment that has so many mosquitoes. So I don't know if there's anyone out there with any questions. I would be happy to try to answer them. So I don't really see any any questions coming in, but another thing we have here are the panthers, and there have been people on these boardwalks in these parks that have been walking through only to be raced or passed up by one of these panthers, luckily not to interfere with the person or what they're doing or their children or anyone taking the walk. So I've seen postings on that type of thing as well. And it's kind of challenging, but if you want to be around the animals, then, you just have to be calm and be thinking in a type of frame of mind that nothing's going to interfere with anything else and that you're safe pretty much, but yet at the same time being respectful. Okay, what inspired me for my book is just the fact that I'd always been interested in writing something, and that opportunity, when I saw that this turtle had come up to the door, then that inspired me to go ahead and write that book. At the time, I don't really have any plans to write anything else. So that just depends on if an opportunity comes where I see that it would be a good topic, then I might put forward my pen and paper because, you can write down all these notes, and then from those notes, you can figure out what kind of story you could plot from those notes. So that's how I did it. And if I do it again, a question from Marco. Hi, Terry. How did you discover your love for writing? That was way back, probably when I got out of high school. There were teachers that tried to encourage me to write, when I got out of school. And at that time, I was living in Ohio, and I got married, and I decided I really don't want to be where it's really cold like that. And my mother had moved down to Florida, so then I went to Florida, and my husband and myself, and then we had 2 children. So I didn't have to battle too much in the way of cold temperatures, that's for sure. So I really like it where it's warm. I'm at home in the sun and by the ocean, which we were near the Atlantic Ocean, whereas on this side of the state, we're near the Gulf. So it is different. The Gulf is more shallow, and it's actually much warmer than the Atlantic. So I have, over the course of my lifetime, gone on fishing expeditions and so forth like that. So who knows? I've had some experiences on the water as well. So I don't know if they're worth, writing about. Some of them might be. So did I work with kids when I wrote in the process of writing my book? Well, I had 2 grandchildren at the time, and they were always on my mind, how to further their knowledge, about the birds and the animals and so forth that we saw. And this was, I thought, a valid point for them. They need to know too that they're safe, and that you don't want to harm any animals. You don't want that. So, we have the normal animals that most people are going to see, like raccoons and other animals. What other ones? There's, the possum. Those are plentiful. I haven't seen that much in the way of a skunk, but I know they're around too. And there was even a fox at one time that we saw. Probably that was back in the 70s. So, but that's, always been important to me. I've always been interested in seeing these wild animals in the wild, and being able to maybe get a closer look at them without jeopardizing me or them. So that's not that I want to encounter raccoons that much. They are a nuisance because they get into everything, and they'll attack your dog if they're in the mood. So, and I always have had dogs. So I guess you could say I'm a dog person. With children, with my own children and them growing up, they liked animals as well, especially my son. He really liked animals. So we had cats, and we had the dogs, and I even had a myna bird at one time, because my son really took a liking to those type of birds, because they do talk. They're very good at talking. So now, yes, this is not the original book cover that I had back in 2013. So we had somebody at Reader's Magnet make another book cover, and that's where that's coming from. And it really is inspiring, because you're seeing very colorful birds and wildlife, and I really do like that cover. I think it's really neat. So I don't know. I'm sure my daughter, the first book, she had a totally different cover that she created, but maybe we don't want the book to look like it's the same book coming out again. It is, but yet it doesn't look the same. So that's what I would say about that. Well, does it energize or exhaust me? It can only be exhausting if I've been sitting there too long, but it is more energizing. And when I was writing it, we were like going over the storyline, and what kind of animals should we draw, and what kind of environment are they in. And so it was, like a bunch of pictures, drawings spread out, and to see which ones we would use and how they would fit into the book, how they would relate to the story. So, and that was kind of fun, actually. So I don't think it was, something that was difficult. It would only be difficult if you worked too long at it and you needed a break. And the writing part, you're constantly thinking, constantly editing your own work, and constantly looking for inspiration and reading it and rereading it. And so, after a while, you're going to want to get away from it. And besides that, if you get away from it, then you can come up with new ideas and new approaches because you have a fresh look at your work. So I would say that about whether or not it's difficult. I know it is to some people. It would seem like, especially if you were on a deadline that you're not meeting with very well. So I don't know. That's how it worked out. This is Gladys. How many hours a day do you write? I'm not really doing any writing right now, but at the time I was probably doing 2 to 3. I didn't, stay right on top of it like that because there was so much more to do there than just write. We had to, we lived on like 3 acres there in a very rural area that was here in Florida. And so there was other things to do. So anyway, at that time, that's how I would do it. And plus I was looking to make enough words, which is not easy, to come up with enough material that it would actually turn into a book. But that's what I did. And I did the best I could until I came up with what I felt was a complete story. And there's not a whole lot you can come up with, on one little incident. So, but I did what I could, and it worked out such as it did. So, I don't know. I don't have any ideas for another book at this time. And I'm sure if I did, I could get myself over there and sit down at my desk and start writing. Although nowadays you can just start typing, into a Word type program, and believe me, you can delete a lot off of it and then change it to something else that you think is better. We don't know. We're just taking a chance on if it's better. But again, you want to edit it well. Number 748, how did you manage your personal life and writing a book? Well, my personal life wasn't all that beefed up because I was, by then I was a widow. And of course we had my daughter there and her children by then now. By the time I wrote that in 2012, they had already left the nest, so to speak, except for one, my grandson. And my granddaughter was already out on her own and going to school. And now I have 2 grandchildren. Well, I have the 2 grandchildren by my daughter, but now I have 2 more by my son. But he doesn't live close at all. He lives very far away. And so I converse with him on FaceTime. So, and yes, they liked the book. I sent the first book to them in 2013 and they liked it. And, but now they're, one of them's 10 already. I don't know how this stuff happens, but you just turn around and they're all, growing up, just like it happened before with my own children. Like I said, it happened. And then the next thing, it's happening again. So, and let me see, my grandson, he's got to be 12 now. So they're still in the age bracket where they can read these books. So I will send them a copy of this one as well. And I'm pretty sure they'll be fine with it and that they'll enjoy it. And that's the best I could hope for. And this is Gladys. Can you share a little bit of your thought process when you were doing the storyline for your book? Well, I was trying to imagine, what is this turtle doing? Why is he at the door? I mean, he knocked a couple of times and it was quite loud. It wasn't, some little soft thing that you think you heard something. No, it was very loud and very aggressive in a way. And what inspired me was thinking about what, what maybe his friends asked him to come up here. That's what I'm going to say. His friends asked him to come up here. They want to know why we're not putting food in the pond, because it's kind of drying up outside and it's getting hotter, and there's not as much rain. And I started thinking that way, and that by creating that situation, we could put drawings in there showing how the turtle was kind of in charge of everybody down there in the pond, and that he was the one elected to go up to the door and come back with the news to the rest of the inhabitants. So that's kind of how that took its place. And you read it for a while and you might want to add something. I added about the what we called Storky Bird, and he was a heron. But those birds will come to that pond and they'll eat the fish in there. So you don't want it to be too low on water either. But there's not a whole lot you can do until it rains. And we do have a rainy season here, and then it, of course, overfills the pond. So that's what happens there. So, yeah, that's how that came about. So I don't know if there's any other questions. But anyway, a question from Marco. What is your favorite childhood book? You know, when I was a young girl, still in elementary school, there was a book called Pink Maple House. I don't know if it's still in print, but that was like my favorite book. I really loved that book. It was very thick, maybe 2 inches thick for me. And it was, based up in, I guess, one of the New England states. And it was about this young girl. They had moved into this big house, and it's just everything that happened, how that she made friends with a mouse that was in the house, and other creatures and so forth. But anyway, I enjoyed that book a lot. So I guess that would be my favorite one. And, you have your standard books like Black Beauty, and of course, you have the one with the yellow brick road there. I can't even think of what the name of it is. So well known. So those would be the ones that I think of the most. But I think my mom did buy us Grimm fairy tales or something like that we would read. But those would be the ones I would remember the best. And you have to remember, I'm not young anymore. I've been retired for a long time, so the memory isn't totally there. So, but I guess it's going to happen to the best of us. Question from Marco. What part of the book made you decide that was your favorite? The other one, the Pink Maple House, I was just enthralled. I was pulled in to the book, and I wanted to read it all the time. Now, that's not true with me all the time. I'll see books and I'll start them, and then they'll be put aside and I don't finish them. This happens to me a lot. But when a book draws me in and I have to, keep going back to it and find out what's going to happen next, as far as the childhood book goes, that was the one that I, kept going back to. And I don't even know if that's in print anymore, but I thought it was really good. So that would be the answer that I would give you. So now, I was going to say tomorrow at 2:00, I'll be doing an author of the hour. So today, this is, my really first appearance on the Festival of Storytellers. And my book was they just finished with the production of the book. And I'm going to have, I have hardcovers, I have the paperback covers, I have an audio book, and I'm sure ebooks. So those you should be able to find on my website, www.terriesbook.com, and that's TERRIE. So that's where you can find information there. So trying to think of other things that I might not be remembering, but yep, that's the way that one's going. So I think the audiobook would be nice if somebody doesn't have time to sit and read, you can just listen. And that usually works out, especially if you just are reading a bigger book somewhere. So that's what I would do. A question from Gladys. If you didn't write, what would you do for work? Help take care of the dogs. And what else? I would, help with cooking. I like to look at the stars and try and figure that out. Although I don't have a lot of background in that. But my daughter had bought a telescope that we like to look through, it's not easy to get those things focused in, but we would do things like that. And it was dark out there, but at one, she had 2 Rottweilers. And on this one day, she had this wooden, it wasn't a patio, but it was attached to the patio. They had a part of it was raised where they had their barbecue, and it was a deck, and it was dark, and we were looking at the sky, and I was kind of walking back and forth, and sometimes I'm telling you, I'd forget about that step and almost fall because you're moving about. But at one point, I walked up to it and got too close, and I actually did fall over, and I couldn't believe it. But the big Rottweiler, he came over and grabbed my arm. He was actually going to try to help me get up. So these are the type of situations where animals are keen on what's going on, and they try to help. And I was really impressed with that. But that's kind of what I would be involved in, that and talking with people. I don't want to lose contact with friends, that you've met over the years. I still have friends that I met after I started working way back in it was in the 60s even. And high school friends, I had gone to my 50th high school reunion back in 2015. And, the same people that I hung out with in school, that's who I hung out with there. So I'm in contact with those people. And, I try to email them and or text them. And I think that's very important, that you keep up with your friends, and that, you have a relationship going with them. So that's important to me. Plus family. You have your own family that you stay in contact with. And yes, it's true, they leave the planet. So I only lost the one friend. I think that happened in 2017. A friend of ours that was at the reunion, she passed from a brain tumor. So that's why I think it's important, so that you maintain this contact with people. A comment from Gladys. Hooray for the gift of friendship. And it is so amazing. And I've met a lot of people over here too in Fort Myers. And I met one lady, she's only a couple years younger than I am, but it's almost like a soulmate. She looks after me. She doesn't live next to me or anything, but she'll come all the way to my house and take me to her business, where she runs a business of healing with Tesla technology. And she would take me over there. I mean, she didn't have to do that, but she did it. So I think she's a great friend. So you always have your new friends and your old friends and your family, and that's important. So, yep. Friends are great. And they help you. You don't even have to ask. Some of them will help you. And some of them may not even know your first name, but they'll try to help out when they can. So they're kind of our angels. I know a couple on my street here. So anyway, that's what I have to say about there. So, okay, moving right along. I'm trying to think of things to talk about. It's, the book and then other situations and that kind of thing. Yeah, living in Florida, you do get hurricanes and such. They're kind of scary, but everybody has their little situations that they encounter and how they respond. And, it's like they say, you so-called hunker down. And most of the homes are CBS, so that holds up very well. And I've been in a few. So um, I'm getting more used to them now, but they're really not the same all the time. And they're not really something you want to be used to. From Marco. I don't have any. Now, I could go look for my older one. I can do that for you, but I'm going to have to step away from the computer. He wants to see a copy of my book. I don't have, the other ones just came off the press today. But if you'll just hang on for a moment, I've got to get off my chair and go look for it. Okay, I'm back, and I have the book. I don't know if you can see this. But she drew it with the from the turtle's eye, looking toward the front door, and that's what the book looks like. If that was enough of a view, I'm hoping. Should have been, but anyway, from Marco. Yes, we can. Much appreciated. Yes. Well, thanks for asking, really. Let's see. I'm showing 5:44 p.m. here. And so anyway, I think I'm going to be wrapping it up here because I see my iPad. I need to put it on the charger. I mean, I still have some power left, but anyway, I will be here tomorrow at 2 p.m. for Author of the Hour. And I'll see how that goes. And I'm glad that everybody came that's here. And hopefully I didn't bore you to death, but Reader's Magnet from Marco on the check. I was just curious what the original cover looked like before it was remodeled to Reader's Magnet. Thank you. Yeah, I can understand that. I kind of like the idea of the turtle eye, but I like the one they have now with the birds and all. It looks more like a nature book. which is pretty neat. I don't know, I'm trying to think of something, anything. What else? I've done a lot. I mean, all of us have, let's face it, we've had all kinds of situations at work, and it's like you have double life, your working life, and then you have your at home life. And I mean, that's the way it was when I was working, because I would work very long hours and trying to get things done and trying to get computers to do what you want them to do. And so sometimes they don't cooperate and you're there for more hours than you want to be. But that's over, that's behind you. Whatever you're doing, it won't be that way forever. So that much I've learned through the course of my life. So that's that. And anyway, I'm running out of things to say that I can remember or think about. And I guess that's the way life is. So again, I just have to say I will be back tomorrow at 2 for the author of the hour. And so I'll probably be wrapping this up here in a few minutes. And then we'll just wait for the next day. Also, every day, I think, through the festival, the opening of the festival, there will be a half an hour each day where the authors can be online. And this will, of course, not everybody's going to be there every day, but, it'll serve other people and other situations, other books, other authors. So there seems to be some pretty interesting material, a lot of interesting material here with the other writers. And I hope you will look in on some of them. And I know there was one book I thought was very interesting. This man wrote a book about God and God's reactions to what people do, and how it affects him. I thought that was very interesting. But there are many other topics, really, there are. And one lady wrote about being a caregiver. And I'm not there yet, but maybe I'm getting to the point where I'll have one. But in any case, all life situations are unique, I guess, in their own way. And we learn from those experiences. And all the people have their different views of how things should be, but we're all just individuals with our own beliefs. So that's all I can say about that. But anyway, hopefully you will see many other people and look at the books. So this new one will be a different size than the one I just showed you. So I think it's going to be 11 by, or it's 8.5 by 11, like the standard sheet of paper. And like I said, it'll be hardcover and also paperback. So there are choices. And that's how that'll work. It's already starting to be dark. It's not quite dark out, but it's getting there. So anyway, I think that they were saying, that maybe they'll wrap this up or not. So I'm still here, still talking. And I'm sure you all have things you need to get to as well. I don't know what that's like there with the booth. Do you get to buy snacks or anything like that you can be munching on while you're going through these booths? That's a question. So you get into a situation, you have to really think in order to come up with things to say. Anyway,